Hey everybody, this is Everyday Commentary, and this is a video overview of this flashlight. As you can see, it is the Noctigon KR4. This is a Chinese-made flashlight that runs an incredibly complex emitter and an incredibly complex UI. It sports a 18650 body. It also came with, for I think it was like $8, a 18350 body. Also in the package was a replacement lens, and I ordered this with a stainless steel bezel, so the normal bezel is right there. So, as usual, I'm going to go and talk about what I like and what I don't like, and then you can wait for the written review to see what the final score is. So this light is part of a generation of flashlights that include a UI called the Andruil UI, and this is a user interface that was developed by Toykeeper on the Budget Light forums, and it is designed to allow you to do a ton of different things from a single button push. This light sports that UI, and it has a maximum output of 4300 lumens and a low of less than 1 lumen. And I really do not like the UI, but you can sort of work around it. You know, every once in a while you accidentally fall into some weird mode and you have to do a factory reset, but you can make it work. This light has, as you can see, 4 emitters. These are SST50s with a good color rendering. It also sports 4 auxiliary LEDs, and these are RGB LEDs, so you can do green, red, blue, and then the regular light output. The back of the light has a tail cap, and it includes a slot for a tritium, and this is actually a blue sort of cayenne tritium to match the machining on this. This one also has a washer style pocket clip. You can unscrew it and screw it back in. As you can see, it's pretty big. It's a little too big for me, but we'll get to that in a second. So let's talk about what I like. So this entire package was chosen by me. The emitters were chosen, the colors were chosen, the body tube, the tritium insert, everything I picked all on my own. And then Noctigon, which is Hank Wang, he put it all together and shipped it to me from China. And it also came with the battery. It uses a special battery, which I'll get to in a second. And the end result is, this is essentially a custom light. It's, you know, all off-the-shelf parts, but put together according to my preferences, and it does exactly what I want in terms of being a flashlight. And I got to pick all of that, and the whole thing came in at just under $85 shipped. So you're really getting an outstanding level of customization for a flashlight, and it's really, really cheap. The other thing that I really like about this light is the machining is incredible. If you can see, let's see if we can get you really close. Look at that. There's some knurling right there. I got a little grease on the bottom because I've been using it. There's knurling right there, and it just gives this light an incredible in-hand feel. I mean, you are really, really locked in. It reminds me a lot of the texture on a tactile turn pen, and that's a really good thing. I like the texture, I like the way it looks, I like the way it works. The other thing that I like about this light is that it is like a no questions asked tail standing light. It is insanely bright for the size, and it also has a really great low. So the price, the options, the value, and the form factor is really good, and then the high and the low. The run times are great because you can modulate everything. So what I don't like. So there are a couple things that I don't like, and one of them is the UI. So if you start out, this is just, you know, the most basic thing you can do on the Andruil UI. So first of all, it has mode memory. So I'll turn it on, and it'll come on in the last level of brightness that it was on in. And then if you hold it down while it's on, so a hold as opposed to a click, you can ramp it up. And then once it's at the ceiling, you hold it again. All right, there we go. Now it will ramp down. So that's the ramping features on the Andruil UI. And if you do nothing else with your light, that is a really good system. I like it a lot. It comes on at the last mode you leave it on. It gets really, really bright. and then it gets really, really dim, and you can do that pretty reliably. The problem here is that the Andruil UI has so many features that if you accidentally drop into one of the modes, you're probably going to have to do a factory reset. And factory resets are not an insignificant thing. So there's two ways to do it. You can do 13 clicks, or you can unscrew the top of this, and then as you screw it back in, hold down the button for 3 seconds. You'll get a series of blinks, one bright flash, and it'll fade out. And then you should have your factory reset. But what I found is if you cycle through the factory resets relatively quickly, you'll get that blinking, the flash, and then it'll go back into the factory reset. So what you have to do is you have to let it blink, flash, fade to dark, and then leave your light alone for a couple of seconds so that it can fully reset. And then once it's fully reset, then you can go in and you can change the memory. The other thing that's really a problem is that a lot of the features that are used to control the auxiliary LEDs are very similar to some of the more esoteric modes in the regular user interface. And there's actually a way to access, so you can configure the light, or you can use the light, you can configure the light, you can drop it into modes, and then you can use the LEDs, you can configure the LEDs, and you can drop them into modes. So they can be, alternating, they can all come on at once, they can come on one color at a time, they can do this little like twinkle thing. I mean, there's like a million different things this light can do. The problem is you only have one button to get it to do all those things, and that means that the user interface is insanely complicated. So that's the first thing I really, really don't like. The second thing I really don't like is this. So it's an E switch, which means it has a sleeve, and I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. But it uses a super mega weirdo battery, because this is an 18650, but it's a flat top 18650, and it is really difficult to find 18650 flat tops at places that you know and trust. And so if you're going to order this light, I strongly recommend that you just order the battery with it. I have a bunch of 18350s, and none of them are the right size. And so it's not like you can just swap in an 18650 or an 18350 that you have at home. It takes a special size of a special battery without the button top. So it's a pretty daunting challenge to find replacements. That being said, I already had one from the LumenTop review, so that worked. But I would strongly recommend you just order the battery that comes with this light. I've charged it on my 4.7-inch charger, and it works fine. It will not charge in a Bay-style charger because it lacks the button. So that's a lot of buy-in for a flashlight. You have to memorize this very complex UI. You have to worry about dropping it into one of the weirdo modes. And then you have this weirdo battery with extra weirdo features, making it incredibly inaccessible. So you pay very little for what you're getting in terms of money, but what the final product is just not something that anybody but the most enthusiastic flashlight fan could ever endorse, because it is crazy complicated. In the end, I'm not sure if I'm gonna give this a good review or not. I'm gonna carry it and see how the Andruil UI works in everyday life. I can tell you I've had it for 3 days, and I have accidentally dropped it into modes, and then one instance my son grabbed it and he accidentally dropped it into a mode. One of the things that I found is because the auxiliary UI is so close to the regular UI, oftentimes I drop it into a mode accidentally when I'm trying to activate the auxiliary LEDs. And so overall, this is a really complex light. If you buy this light, you need to be prepared to work. But if you do work at it, you can get this light to do things that basically no other light can do. And it has performance and a size and a fit and finish that match some of the best lights out there, and it's pretty cheap. The other light that's a sister light to this is the Msr D4 V2. It has a side switch, it's a little bit thinner. I actually really like the form factor of the Noctigon, but for this really bulbous clip, it needs to be much flatter. This is crazy. It's like a super paint scraper. But it will snap onto backpacks pretty well because it has this huge gap. So, an overview, this light is cheap. It has an incredible performance in terms of output. It can do basically anything. The bad stuff, the UI is bad, the battery is bad, and this clip is just ridiculous. So, let's see how this turns out, and I'll post a review as soon as it's done.